I want to start with a hard truth. We like to believe that everyone deep down has some good in them, that if we just love them enough, give them enough chances, or explain ourselves clearly enough, they'll change. But the reality is, some people are not just difficult, they are dangerous. I'm not talking about people who make mistakes, who are struggling, who are imperfect, because that's all of us. I'm talking about people who use others like tools, who twist reality, who don't lose sleep over the pain they cause. And if you've ever been in the orbit of one of these people, you know the cost. Let's talk about charm. We all love a charming person, don't we? Someone who knows how to make us feel special, seen, and valued. It's intoxicating. It draws us in. It makes us believe we've met someone who truly understands us. But here's the thing, charm in the wrong hands isn't kindness, it's a weapon. There's a difference between genuine warmth and calculated charm. A truly kind person doesn't use their charm to control others. They don't shower you with attention just to gain something in return. But a manipulative person, they know exactly how to wield charm like a tool, and they do it with precision. At first, they'll make you feel like the most important person in the world. They'll mirror your interests, your dreams, your values. If you love art, they suddenly have a deep passion for it. If you talk about your struggles, they'll nod along, offering the perfect words of comfort. It feels like they just get you. But what's really happening? They're studying you, learning what makes you tick, figuring out exactly what they need to say and do to pull you closer. And then, once they've got you where they want you, the charm begins to fade. They become inconsistent. One moment they're warm and affectionate, and the next they're distant, cold, or even cruel. This is when you start to feel confused. You wonder if you did something wrong, if you upset them somehow. You try harder to please them to bring back that person they were in the beginning. And that's exactly what they want. This is how charm as a weapon works. It hooks you, makes you dependent on their approval, and then keeps you chasing after it. It's a classic manipulation tactic used by people who want control, not connection. So how do you spot the difference between real kindness and manipulative charm? Pay attention to consistency. Real kindness doesn't switch on and off based on what someone wants from you. It doesn't feel conditional. A genuinely good person will be warm and considerate whether or not they have something to gain. But someone using charm as a weapon, their affection is a transaction. If you stop giving them what they want, whether it's admiration, attention, or obedience, you'll see how quickly their charm disappears. And here's the hardest truth. People who use charm as a weapon aren't just playing a role. They are the role. The person they presented in the beginning, that wasn't real. That was a carefully crafted illusion. And once you see the switch happen, once you recognize that charm isn't genuine but a means to an end, your best move isn't to try and win back their affection. It's to step away before they tighten their grip. Because at the end of the day, real charm, the kind that comes from a place of love and sincerity, doesn't manipulate, doesn't control, and doesn't disappear the moment you stop being useful. Empathy is the glue that holds human relationships together. It's what allows us to connect, to understand, to comfort, and to truly see one another. Without it, relationships become one-sided, transactional, and in many cases, deeply harmful. A lack of empathy isn't just about someone being indifferent or emotionally distant. It's about their complete inability to care about how their actions affect others. And this isn't because they don't understand emotions. In fact, some of the most dangerous people are highly skilled at recognizing emotions. They just use that knowledge to manipulate rather than to connect. At first, it might not be obvious. Many people who lack empathy can pretend to care when it serves their purpose. They might offer comforting words when they know it's expected, or mimic emotional responses to blend in. But if you watch closely, you'll notice the cracks in the act. They might listen to your struggles, but quickly shift the conversation back to themselves. They might apologize, but only to avoid consequences, not because they actually feel remorse. They might even use your emotions against you, subtly mocking or belittling your feelings, making you question whether your pain is valid. One of the clearest signs of a person who lacks empathy is their reaction when you're hurting. Think about a time when you've shared your pain with someone. Maybe you were going through a loss, a difficult time at work, or a personal struggle. A caring person will acknowledge your feelings, offer support, and try to understand your experience. But someone who lacks empathy, they will dismiss it, downplay it, or even become annoyed by it. They might say things like, "Why are you making such a big deal out of this? You're too sensitive. Other people have it worse. That's not my problem." And if they do show concern, it often feels hollow, like they're just checking a box rather than genuinely caring. You'll notice that when it comes to their own problems, they expect endless support and understanding, but when the roles are reversed, they have no patience for yours. But the most dangerous thing about a person who lacks empathy is that they don't just ignore your feelings, they use them. They study your emotional responses and figure out how to exploit them. If they know you have a soft heart, they'll play the victim to make you feel guilty. If they know you fear confrontation, they'll use that fear to avoid accountability. They will take every emotional cue you give them and twist it for their own benefit. And here's the thing, you cannot teach empathy to someone who doesn't want to learn it. You can explain, you can plead, you can try to show them how their actions hurt others, but if they truly lack empathy, they will never change. Because at their core, they do not see people as people, they see them as tools, as resources, as means to an end. So what can you do? The moment you recognize that someone lacks empathy, the best thing you can do is stop expecting them to care. Protect yourself, set boundaries, stop seeking validation from someone who is emotionally incapable of giving it. Because the longer you wait for an unempathetic person to change, the more you lose yourself in the process. Empathy is a two-way street, and if someone refuses to walk it with you, you owe it to yourself to stop waiting at the intersection. We all tell small lies from time to time, sometimes to spare someone's feelings, sometimes to avoid unnecessary conflict. But when deception isn't an occasional slip-up, but a way of life, you're dealing with something much more dangerous. Some people don't just lie, they exist in lies. Their words are a performance, their stories carefully crafted to control the narrative, and their version of reality is whatever benefits them the most at any given moment. A person who uses deception as their default mode doesn't just lie to cover mistakes. They lie to manipulate, to confuse, to control. Their dishonesty isn't reactionary, it's intentional. They create false versions of themselves to gain trust. They tell conflicting stories to different people so no one can compare notes. They mix truth with lies just enough to make it believable, so if you ever try to call them out, they have an easy way to dismiss you. And here's the worst part, if you catch them lying, they don't feel guilt. They feel challenged. They don't apologize or make amends. They double down. They gaslight. They shift the blame. They make you feel like the crazy one for questioning them. You'll hear things like, "You must have misunderstood. I never said that. Why are you always trying to pick a fight? You're too paranoid." They rewrite history right in front of you. And they do it so convincingly that you start to doubt yourself. The many faces of a liar, people who default to deception, have different ways of lying. Some are chronic fabricators. They invent stories out of thin air, painting themselves as heroes, victims, or geniuses, depending on what they need in the moment. Others are masters of omission. They leave out just enough details to manipulate your perception while maintaining plausible deniability. Then there are the gaslighters, people who don't just lie, but actively distort reality to make you question your own memory and sanity. What makes this so dangerous is that deception is their normal. They don't struggle with guilt the way honest people do, where a good person might feel a pit in their stomach after telling a lie. These people feel a rush of power. Every successful deception reinforces their belief that they are smarter, more cunning, and more in control than those around them. How to recognize and protect yourself. The first step in protecting yourself from a pathological liar is to trust patterns, not words. One lie can be an accident. Two lies can be a mistake. But if you notice a repeated pattern of dishonesty, don't ignore it. Pay attention to inconsistencies. If someone's stories never quite add up, if their words and actions don't align, if you constantly find yourself second-guessing what you know to be true, something isn't right. The second step is to stop justifying or rationalizing their lies. When we care about someone, it's easy to make excuses for them. Maybe they didn't mean to lie. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe I'm overreacting. But if you constantly have to convince yourself that someone is telling the truth, they probably aren't. If you've ever dealt with a truly toxic or manipulative person, you've probably felt this, a creeping sense of disorientation, like you're constantly trying to find your footing on shifting ground. You start questioning your own memory, your judgment, even your sanity. One day, everything seems fine, and the next, you're trapped in an argument you don't even understand. If you feel like you're always walking on eggshells, constantly trying to predict someone's next move, congratulations, you've stepped into the world of someone who thrives on chaos and confusion. And make no mistake, the confusion isn't an accident, it's a strategy. Why do they create chaos? People who thrive on chaos use it as a tool of control. If they can keep you disoriented, second-guessing yourself, and emotionally exhausted, they make it harder for you to stand up to them, to hold them accountable, or even to leave. Chaos serves several purposes for them. It keeps them in power. If they can confuse you, they can control you. If you don't know what's real and what's not, they get to be the one who defines reality for you. It makes you dependent on them. When you're in a constant state of uncertainty, you start looking to them for clarity. Even though they're the ones creating the confusion, they become both the storm and the shelter. It allows them to escape accountability. If they constantly shift the story, rewrite history, and keep you distracted with new conflicts, it becomes nearly impossible to pin them down for their actions. How do they create chaos? Contradictory behavior. One day they're affectionate and supportive, the next they're distant and cruel. One moment they tell you they love you, the next they're acting like they don't even know you. You're left trying to make sense of it all, wondering what you did wrong, when in reality it was never about you. Moving goalposts, just when you think you've met their expectations, the rules change. You do everything they ask, but somehow it's never enough. The target keeps shifting and you're always in the wrong. This keeps you in a constant state of trying harder, even when you're already giving everything. Gaslighting. They make you question your own memory and perception. You bring up something hurtful they said and they tell you, that never happened. You express frustration about a broken promise and they insist, I never said that. Over time, this kind of manipulation erodes your confidence in your own reality, making you easier to control. Triangulation, they bring other people into the mix to create drama and division. They might tell you that someone else has been saying bad things about you, or they'll pit people against each other while pretending to be the peacemaker. This keeps everyone distracted and prevents people from comparing notes. Unpredictable reactions. One day a mistake might make them laugh, the next the same mistake sets them off into a rage. The inconsistency keeps you on edge because you never know what will trigger them. You start overanalyzing everything, afraid of setting them off. The emotional cost of chaos. When you live in constant confusion, your brain is always on high alert. You're always analyzing, always bracing for the next conflict, always questioning yourself. This leads to emotional exhaustion, anxiety, and even physical stress. Over time, you might start feeling like you're the problem, like you're the one who's too sensitive, too reactive, too confused. But that's exactly what they want you to believe. People who thrive on chaos don't want peace, because peace means clarity, and clarity means you might finally see them for who they really are and walk away. How to break free from the chaos. Trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. If someone constantly makes you feel confused, uncertain, or mentally drained, don't ignore those feelings. Stop playing the game. The moment you stop trying to figure them out or make sense of their behavior, you take away their power. The truth is, there is no logic, only manipulation. Set boundaries and stick to them. People who thrive on chaos hate boundaries because they create stability. Don't let them push past yours. Limit your exposure. If possible, remove yourself from their orbit. The more distance you have, the clearer everything will become. Seek support. Talk to someone you trust, whether it's a friend, family member, or therapist. An outside perspective can help you see what's really happening. At the end of the day, real relationships, healthy relationships, don't leave you feeling lost and exhausted. They bring clarity, security, and trust. If someone in your life thrives on chaos, the best thing you can do is refuse to be a part of it. Because once you step away from the storm, you'll realize how much peace was missing all along. When you take a step back and look at these patterns, charm as a weapon, lack of empathy, deception as a default, and chaos as a strategy, a clear picture emerges. People who operate this way aren't just difficult, they are dangerous. They don't seek connection, they seek control. They don't build relationships, they manipulate them. And the longer you stay entangled with them, the more they chip away at your confidence, your sense of reality, and even your sense of self. But here's the truth, you don't have to play their game. You don't have to keep explaining yourself, keep hoping they'll change, or keep blaming yourself for their behavior. Because it's not about you, it never was. The moment you stop seeking fairness and logic in a person who thrives on deception and control is the moment you take back your power. So if you recognize these signs in someone in your life, let that recognition be your wake-up call. Set boundaries. Limit your exposure, and if necessary, walk away, because real relationships, healthy relationships, don't leave you confused, depleted, and second-guessing yourself. They bring peace, stability, and mutual respect. At the end of the day, you get to decide who has access to you. Protect your energy, trust your intuition, and remember, the most powerful thing you can do with an evil person is refuse to play their game.